There are two empty seats. One is close to the counter. It is easy to reach, easy to leave, and safely outside the path of the afternoon sun. The other is beside the window. It comes with glare, a possible draft, and at this exact moment, a magnificent view of a delivery van. You choose that one. We do this in cafés, trains, airplanes, libraries, hotel lobbies, and almost anywhere a chair meets a pane of glass. Of course, not literally always. Aisle seat loyalists are already preparing a very organized response. Sometimes we want legroom, an easy exit, less heat, or simply not to look down from 30,000 feet. But the window seat keeps winning often enough to raise a surprisingly complicated question. What exactly are we choosing? The obvious answer is the view. And sometimes the view is extraordinary. Mountains beyond a train, a city turning gold at dusk. Clouds rearranging themselves beneath an airplane wing. But sometimes the view is a car park or a brick wall or one tree making a heroic effort beside a bus stop, and we may still choose it. That is because a window seat is not one feature. It is a small bundle of choices. It gives us something to look at, but also a boundary beside us. It lets us join a public place without facing all of it. It gives our eyes somewhere natural to rest and gives us some control over how available we feel. Studies of seating do not reveal one universal rule. Furniture matters, distance matters, the people already in the room matter, what we plan to do matters, but certain patterns appear repeatedly. When students could reserve seats in a university reading room, corner seats were especially popular, aisle seats were avoided. And people at open tables often preferred a wall behind them. In cafe experiments, people frequently chose more distance, less direct eye contact, or a seat anchored by a wall, although the pattern changed between experiments. The lesson is not that everyone wants to hide, it is that a physical edge gives us options. The middle of a room asks us to exist in every direction. Someone can approach from behind, someone can pass on either side, every movement belongs, at least slightly, to our immediate surroundings. At the edge, one side of the world has already been taken care of. Environmental designers sometimes describe this through the idea of prospect and refuge. Prospect is the ability to look outward, to see across a room, a landscape, or a street. Refuge is the feeling of being partly sheltered while we do it. It is a useful design lens, not a law of human nature. Later research has found uneven support. And people are much too varied to be explained by one elegant phrase. Still, the window seat often performs both jobs at once. The wall, frame, corner, or glass gives the body a defined edge. The view opens in the opposite direction. It is half telescope, half shield. In one study of an urban park, the seating areas with broad, unobstructed views strongly overlapped with the places people preferred. Shelter alone did not explain the choice. That distinction matters. If enclosure were the whole appeal, the ideal seat would face a wall. Most of us do not enter a cafe, locate the blankest available surface, and think, perfect. We often want protection without confinement. The window offers a tiny room inside the larger room, one that remains open to somewhere else. A window also solves a very ordinary social problem. Where should we look? Facing a busy room can create a menu of mildly awkward choices. Look at a stranger. Look at the table, check the same notification again. Develop a sudden academic interest in the sugar jar. A window gives our eyes somewhere polite to be. The street offers company without requiring participation. Movement, faces, changing light, tiny unfinished stories, all safely on the other side of the glass. The window is a remarkably considerate companion. It never asks what we do for work. Psychologists have proposed that some gently changing scenes hold attention without demanding all of it. The term is soft fascination. Leaves moving in the wind, clouds changing shape, people crossing a distant square, interesting enough to notice, quiet enough to leave room for thought. It is an appealing explanation, but still a working theory, not a proven switch inside the brain. What the window reveals also matters. In one study of 72 university students, Those whose dormitory windows contained more natural views performed better on measures of directed attention. That was an association, not proof that a tree outside the window will finish an essay for you, but it supports a familiar intuition. A view can give attention somewhere gentle to go. The window seat can therefore feel private without feeling isolated. We are alone, but not entirely. For most of history, this experience was difficult to manufacture. A clear, flat, generous pane of glass was not an ordinary building material. Window glass was made in several ways. A blown cylinder could be cut and flattened. A blown form could be opened and spun into a crown disc. Larger windows were often assembled from smaller panes. The result was expensive, limited in size, and often beautifully imperfect. During the 19th century, larger sheets of plate glass and slimmer iron supports began changing urban shop fronts. The wall facing the street slowly dissolved into display. The shop window taught the city to look in. The cafe window let us sit inside and look back out. Then during the 1950s, engineers at Pilkington developed the modern float glass process. Molten glass traveled across a bath of molten tin, forming smooth, parallel surfaces. After years of industrial trial, large, flat panes became easier to produce at scale. The window stopped behaving like a collection of small openings and began behaving like a scene. This changed more than facades, it changed furniture. Chairs could face outward. Counters could run along the glass. Deep window ledges became reading places. Restaurants, libraries, hotels, and homes could create a new kind of seat, indoors in climate, outdoors in attention. The view had become part of the room. Rail travel gave the window another job. It began to move. Some railway companies and travel promoters learned to treat scenery as part of the journey. Long-distance trains could include observation lounges, and promotional material framed the passing landscape as something passengers were not merely traveling through but coming to see. The train window turned distance into sequence: departure, fields, towns, weather, arrival. Without it, a journey can feel like time removed from the day. Through it, the journey has a visible beginning, middle, and end, yet even here the view is not the only thing we choose. In observations on suburban trains in Munich, passengers strongly preferred an empty group of seats over joining one that already contained somebody else. Within empty groups, forward-facing and window seats were chosen more often, but the empty group mattered more. Privacy beat panorama. We do not worship windows, we negotiate comfort. On an airplane, that negotiation becomes especially clear. The window offers a fixed side, control over the shade, a surface to lean toward, and a way to make an impossible distance visible. The aisle offers movement, an easier exit, and freedom from asking two sleeping strangers to begin a small evacuation. And an aircraft window is not simply a hole placed wherever the view would be nicest. It is part of a pressurized structure, shaped by engineering constraints long before we choose seat 18A or 18C. At night, the view may disappear completely. The boundary remains. Architects and interior designers deliberately create window seat moments. A cafe counter faces the street. A hotel chair is rotated toward the skyline. A library thickens the wall into a reading niche. A train aligns seats, sometimes successfully, with its windows. These are not just chairs near glass, they are carefully adjusted relationships between body, boundary, and view. A window does not merely reveal a place, it edits it. The frame decides what enters the scene and what remains outside. A complicated city becomes sky, roofs, trees, and distant movement. A small chair borrows depth from an entire horizon, and the view does not need to be famous. The window seat can work with a side street, a station platform, a garden wall, or one very determined tree beside a bus stop. What matters is the arrangement, enough boundary to feel settled, enough distance to look outward, and enough change to keep the world gently alive. Perhaps that is why the seat can feel larger than it is. It occupies half a square meter, but psychologically it reaches all the way to the horizon. Back in the cafe, the delivery van finally leaves. It does not reveal a monument, just people walking, leaves moving, and sunlight traveling slowly across the opposite wall. It is enough. Maybe the window seat is not where we go to leave the world. It is where the world becomes the right distance away, close enough to watch, far enough to choose how we take part. The seat still has glare, it may still have a draft, and tomorrow, given the same 2 chairs, we will probably choose it again. An ordinary chair, one pane of glass, a surprisingly good story.